Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, do I have to dig this hole again? So the progress on the passive solar green frame is really coming along nicely. I'm very pleased. There's been bumps and bruises along the way and hiding some mistakes and fixing them as we go, but overall I'm very pleased and super excited at the progress over the last couple of days. The elephant in the room is the shovel over here to my left and the introduction to the show, digging this hole again. So after episode number 2 or 3, that a viewer watched very quickly and with a sense of urgency got in touch with me. Scott McCartney. A big shout out to Scott. Thanks for looking out for me. And I'm not sure if it's a shout out in a good way or a my life is going to be ruined way. So here's what we're sitting with. Scott asked me about filling the passive solar green frame hole in the ground with the sand that I did. So he has some experience with some construction and underground stuff, but not per se passive solar green frames. But here's his concern. Below me, I have all of this sand that we dug out and dug out. We got to put in the tubes, the air tubes for the passive solar green frame. So see, the air is going to be sucked down that tube. It goes down under into the air tubes and comes up the tube over there you can't see. And it's cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter. Once I got my tubes in place, I put some river stone, about 1 inch to 1.5 inch river stone, for about 2 feet on top of those air tube passageways. And then the rest of the hole, I used the dirt, or in my case, sand that came out of, the hole that I had stacked up behind here. And I've been walking on it and working on it, and we've got a roof over it now. We haven't had much rain the last month or so. So the concern is this. When I'm watering my plants in here and all the water seeps down through this sand, there will be some, half-inch size quartz rock that I have, beautiful rock. That's going to be what I'm going to be walking on. And all the water is going to hit that rock and not splash up dirt and everything on all my insides of the green frame. Over time, me walking along inside the greenhouse, walking along that, watering, having all that difference in compaction and the weight of just me walking around and the plants in here and the water, dry, wet cycle, winter, summer, thaw, freeze. Will this get so compacted that the sand will seep through and get through into the airflow tubes? If you remember from episode 3 or 4, when I put the air tubes in, the air tubes are a corrugated plastic tube, pretty firm, pretty rigid, and they have air holes in them, but there's a sock over it. So the sock over it is hopefully going to prevent most things from getting inside those air tubes. Now, Scott's concern is over time, this fine sand that I have here in my neck of the woods is going to eventually seep through and possibly clog up some or part of those drain pipes. Now, keep in mind, the holes are pretty, few and far between. So it's mostly solid pipe, but there are some little holes. And there is the sock over that. And I have not seen in any of my research of the passive solar greenhouse, I don't remember there ever being a cloth layer before you put sand back in. Now, most people put rocks all the way to the top, or they put the dirt back from their yard. And some people have really clay, rocky soil, and it's just, clumpy and thick. I have this fine sand. What am I going to do? So Scott said if it were me, I would dig all the sand back out. Well, I'm not Scott, and I don't know that I want to dig all this sand out. We've got some great updates on today's show, and we'll show you how far along we've gotten. But I still have a door, and I still have sand and a shovel and a wheelbarrow, though it's fallen apart, I could dig out all the sand about 2 feet down, maybe 3 feet tops, get to the rocks, put a really high professional grade weed barrier down, and throw all the sand back in. But is it necessary? So please, in the comments down below, someone give me some insights of what you think I should do. What do you think's going to happen? Yeah, over the course of 10, 15, 20, maybe 30 years, there could be some compilation or a grouping of sand particles in some of the tubes. It could throw the airflow off just a little bit. Will they fill up completely? With the sock over the corrugated tubing, I don't think I'm going to have an issue. So my friends over at Verge Permaculture, I've contacted Verge and I've got a consultant set up to talk with in about a week or so. And I'm going to talk with the consultants and see what they say before I start digging, before I change anything with the passive solar green frame. Scott, thanks again for the warning. If anybody else has some great knowledge about the compaction of sand and the drain tile corrugated tubes I have, and with water and hot, cold. Now there shouldn't be freeze-thaw because this should never freeze, but there will be some movement of earth and the water going down. Water is an amazingly powerful thing that can just go through rock, right, and change the form of rock. So could that mess up the bottom part in what's called oftentimes an earth battery? I can't wait to read your comments. I hope it doesn't mean I have to redig this hole out. I know one thing for sure though. I'm not going to dig until the temperatures in the daytime don't go above 70 anymore. Let's get back to the passive solar green frame and show you what's been going on. So I'm out at the passive solar green frame, and Toby and I just tried the glass. We tried it in the middle one first and then the left side here. Everything was real nice and snug width-wise, but up top I'm over an inch off.
That is not good.
Wow. Okay, so now lift it up all the way past the top piece.
Yeah, the 2x4 thickness, it went over half of a 2x4. So we have an 1.5 inch thickness. We got at least 3/4 to an inch that I was miscalculated on. Somehow I mismeasured. I measured 2, 3, 4 times and it didn't happen. But what we'll do is we'll leave this intact, and up at the top there where the other edges like this, we're gonna have to sawzall that, and there's room to do that. We'll sawzall that off on all 3 of those. The glass will sit up there, and then a nice piece of trim board will replace what you see up there now, which is the top part of this right here. So we needed to try it out though to see what was next. So now we got some fixing up to do. Those things that you can only try if you don't measure right. So remember, measure twice, 3 times. But we'll get it up there.
So not only am I stewing over the sand situation, but I can't put up the 3 window panels either because I mismeasured by about an inch. So it's back to the putsy stuff. Important, but not as exciting as putting up the window panels for sure. After putting up some OSB boards on the inside walls, I added some more insulation on the east and west and applied the plastic vapor barrier. I still had enough pieces parts of my OSB, so I tackled those odd angle pieces. I also quickly spray painted the intake and outtake piping. The outside shiplap also needed to be completed. Boy, was that fun to get done, and I'm so pleased with the end result. The footage is a little dark here, but I started to bring in some of the 1/2-inch sized quartz I purchased a while back that will go both on the inside of the PSGF for the floor and around the front and east side of the PSGF. So I leveled out the ground in front a little bit, put down some weed barrier, and put some rocks down to start making things get all polished up a little bit. It's nice to see things looking cleaned up. Even though I couldn't put the window panels on yet, I did need to prepare the bottoms of where they will sit. See, I don't want water to pool at the bottom of the 2x4s, so I drilled 3 holes at the bottom of each panel area, and where the panels will sit, those holes will help drain the water. I spray painted some Flex Seal in the holes so the wood won't rot out from the inside of those holes. Now, It was time for some very tedious but necessary work to allow the glass panels to fit. I needed to sawzall the top border, paint those exposed pieces after I chipped off all the extra wood, and see if I could get those panels to fit on the east and the west side of the front of the passive solar green frame. I washed the windows up and put them in place. I used a 1x4 stained and cut in half for the trim pieces that held the window tighter in place. After some caulk, 2 of the 3 windows are ready to do their thing. I'll need to do more of this, but I touched up the painting a bit too after all that work. It's time now for a break as I head back to school with students this week. I'll have to wait to the weekend to get a little more done.
It's a Saturday afternoon and the lawnmowers are still cranking up in the neighborhood, but I'm inside the PSGF where we can get some work done today and the audio is not quite so obnoxious with all the mowers. So the goal for today is to actually get all of this insulated and the vapor barrier plastic up on these walls, right over here as well, and then I want to work up on the roof a little bit. Now when I talk about the roof, it's actually the inside south wall on the inside. So right up in here, I've got the window over here, I've got the window over here, and we want to cover that with our a little bit of our OSB board before we put our final product on here. That'll be more waterproof. So we've got that all insulated. Now we got to put some plastic up there and get those pieces cut. Got to make room for the windows, a little jigsawing again, and we'll get that done as well. So quickly before I get to work, I wanted to say how cool it was to actually have some of that windows already in place. So we were able to get the far right and far left windows in, and they're caulked in, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. We have some more trim work to do up at the top. But what's amazing inside the greenhouse already, even though this is completely open back here, when I stand right here and the sun is shining right up there on this fall day with the temps in the mid-70s, I can already feel just this massive amount of warmth right here. So when you're in that greenhouse, getting that sensation of warmth is a fantastic thing. We got to get some cutting and some insulating and some plastic cutting, so time to get to work today. So I took a little break from inside the PSGF to come in the back. So as the rock trail comes to the back here, all the sand when I dug this hole kind of went past the borderline of my yard and my neighbor's yard and made a great big old mess right here. And it covered up all his bricks. So I just unstacked all his bricks and moved all the sand back over there to make a mound and restacked up his bricks for him. So when they want them, they don't have to unbury them. So we've got quite a mound of sand here. Not horrible. We'll have to move some of that sand around. But part of the cleanup and part of the tedious stuff of the PSGF that's not fun, but has to be done. Back inside, we are done with the east side wall and the inside with insulation and plastic. We are all done putting the OSB on the top. Plastic is up on top. A couple of sideboards right down here. And that one right over there I'm going to pound on next, and I think we're going to wrap up this episode. Well, there we have it. Another day, another sweaty mess, and the little pieces, parts in the passive solar green frame are put together. So the tops are a little bit closer to being done. Insulation on both sides. I didn't get to the back wall today. Got a little hot and steamy in here. It did cloud up and we got a little bit of rain sprinkles. It's nice to see some of the rain on the new panes of window, to see how they would kind of run down and go through the holes that I drilled in, and put in some of that Flex Seal so the wood wouldn't rot away over time. It's coming together. It's closing up. We are really, really close. So my son is on a road trip to Moab, Utah. Might be going to Yosemite for a couple of days. Doing a road trip all by himself. I'm quite envious. But he has the van. He's camping out in the van, so I can't get the big boards to finish this back wall and the roof up here. But we're going to order the back metal pieces. We're going to order the metal roof, and when he gets back I'm going to get these slats, and then we are really close to thinking about bringing some rocks in here and building a first shelf, a temporary shelf at least. But that leads us to the mystery question, or the answer to my question, but I'm going to wait. Am I going to dig this sand out 2-3 feet down, put a little tarp or a weed barrier on there, put the sand back in? I really don't want to do that. Please, in the comments below, if you didn't hear before, check the beginning of this and listen to a little bit further in the episode where I ask opinions on whether I should dig this out or not, or if we think we'll be good with the sleeves that are over the corrugated drain tile piping. So I don't think I'm going to dig the sand out, but I don't know. I've got my consultation in less than a week now, so we'll talk with Verge Permaculture and see what they say. In the meantime, we are making loads of progress. So until next time, hey, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you very soon on the next one.